What if Deku joined Team JPDE? Chapter 9. Fooling Around. Monday. Day 22. Team JPDE were getting ready for school. Is something worrying you? David Penny asked. I don't really know. Right now, I'm more puzzled, to be honest, David said. This about your semblance? Evelyn asked. Pretty much. Something about the circumstances of it that bothers me, David said. That being? Deku asked. We'll talk about it later, David said. You're the boss, Evelyn said. No, I am. And boss says let's get to class, Jack said. Et I, Captain, Evelyn said. Affirmative, Penny said. You got it, boss woman, Deku said. Shiver me timbers. And stuff, David said. The five then left their dorm room and headed to the mess hall for breakfast, and then went to class. After lessons had ended, Deku's scroll went off. He looked to see who the caller was and saw that it was Blake. Hey, Blake, Deku said. Hello, Ijuku, Blake said. You ready to do some reading? Deku asked. I am. Meet me in the corridor in front of my team's room, Blake said. The corridor. We're not reading in your room, Deku asked. No, I have a place for just the two of us. Just meet me there, Blake said. Deku then made his way to outside Team RWBY's dorm room. Ready? Deku asked. Ready. Follow me, Blake said. Blake then led Deku to her secret spot. Well, how did you even find this place? Deku asked. Luck, really, Blake said. The two then began to read the book until nightfall. Thanks for the company, Ijuku. It was nice having someone to read with, for once, Blake said. My pleasure. Have a nice evening, Blake, Deku said. Oh, I will, Blake said. The two then went their separate ways. Deku was currently in Team JNPR's kitchen. He was currently teaching Ren how to cook katsudon. And that is it. You have now made your first serving of katsudon, Deku said. Not quite yet. Need to make sure it tastes good first, Ren said. Well then. Dig in, Deku said. Just then the kitchen door flung open. Ren. I'm hungry. Cook me pancakes, Nora said. Nora was in her gym outfit. She was covered in sweat and Deku could see through her shirt. Sorry, Nora. But I haven't had the chance to get more ingredients. I'll go into Vale tomorrow to get them, Ren said. No, Nora said, falling to her knees. Sorry, Nora, Ren said. It's fine. I'm still hungry though, Nora said. Then why don't you try Ren's katsudon, Deku said. How, Nora said. I had just finished teaching Ren how to make katsudon. And we need someone to test it, Deku said. You kidding me? Ren's cooking never needs to be tested. Gimme, Nora said. Deku then gives Nora the bowl of katsudon. Nora grabs the chopsticks and tries to use them, but she fails on holding the food. Screw it, Nora said. She threw the chopsticks away and eat straight out of the bowl. Well. Someone's got a large appetite, Deku said. This body demands a lot of good food, Nora said, as she tuned to flex. Her boobs jiggled as she did. Well, Ren, it seems that you've mastered katsudon, Deku said. Nora's stomach does not lie. Now as thanks, here's my recipe for my pancakes, Ren said. Thanks. Quick question, does they have cinnamon in it, and if so what variety? Deku asked. They do, and Mistrali variety. Why do you ask? Ren asked. There was an incident with pancakes and the wrong cinnamon variety, Deku said. Ren laughed. See you around. Bye, Ren. Bye, Nora, Deku said. Deku then left Team JPNR's room and headed back to his. What? Ren asked. Why did you give him the secret to fluffy goodness, and not me? Nora asked. Because you'll just eat pancakes all day, Ren said. You. You have a point, Nora said. If you can show restraint in wanting pancakes, I will teach you the recipe, Ren said. Wait, really? Nora asked. Yes, Ren said. Yeah. Thank you, Rennie, Nora said. Don't thank me yet. The test hasn't even started, Ren said. Oh right, Nora said. For this test you will not ask for pancakes. Pancakes will be given to you for breakfast every Saturday, but you will get the same as everyone else. Does that sound fair? Ren asked. Yeah. Now how long will I have to wait? Nora asked. I shall tell you once you've passed, Ren said. Okay, Nora said. David entered his apartment and saw Jack, Penny, Deku and Evelyn sitting and waiting. Were you waiting for me? David asked. Kind of. You did mention something was on your mind, Jack said. And if it involves your semblance, there is no way I'm gonna miss something about it, Deku said with a book in his hand. What's the book for? David asked. I like to write information about others' fighting styles and semblances, and I'm gonna update your entry, Deku said. Is that wise considering? David said. Oh, don't worry. I'll write it in Old Miss Dolly. That means only I'll be able to read it, Deku said. Oh, you have a profile on us, let me see, Evelyn said. Evelyn then took the book out of Deku's hands and flipped through the book. Nice drawing of me. But I think you need to redraw me to show of my curves. I would be happy to model, Evelyn teased. Deku took the book back with a big blush on his face. Technically, this is later, no, Penny said. I wasn't going to try and skip on this, you know, David said. Oh, he thinks he could. How cute, Evelyn teased. Point taken. Anyway, it's not exactly about my semblance. It's something that happened when I awoke it, but it happened before, David said. When else did it happen? Jack asked. The other Sunday, the night Penny. I mean, the night David said. You mean you had a boner when you activated your semblance? Evelyn asked. No, I didn't. That's not what I meant. And I didn't pop a boner when. Anyway, it's something that happened while I was asleep, David said. So? What was it? Jack asked. Well. There's a voice in my head, David said. The others look at David in shock. I take it from your faces in this world of aura, magical crystals and transforming weapons, hearing voices is still frowned upon, David asked. Just a little bit, partner. What kind of voice? Jack asked. My own voice. I mean, it talks with my own voice and even showed itself to me in my dreams, and it looked like me. So I thought it was just a dream, David said. But you heard it again when we were fighting the Grim Horde? Penny asked. Yes. To be precise, I heard it talk to me just as I shouted Izuku's and Evelyn's names. It was like everything around me slowed down as it spoke to me, and then the next thing I know, David said. David. Does this voice talk to you all the time? Evelyn asked. No. It only talked to me twice so far, David said. And what did it say? Jack asked. The first time it urged me to run. I guess form something. It wasn't clear on the specifics, David said. And during the battle? Deku asked. It admonished me for not running when forewarned, but followed it by saying it would respect my decision to fight. That's it, David said. I really wish we could tell the headmaster about this, Jack said. That is so not an option, Evelyn said. Well, we could tell him actually, Deku said. Izuku is right. Telling Headmaster Ozpin about this does not necessarily entail telling him about David's semblance, Penny said. Also, to be fair, it's been a month since you've come here. If nothing weird happened with you at all, he'd probably get suspicious, Evelyn said. I guess we'll have to take the risk, Jack said. Girls and Izuku. What exactly is your relationship with the headmaster? David asked. He's a good friend and confidant of General Ironwood. General Ironwood is a friend and collaborator of my father, Penny said. There's no relationship between me and Ozpin. He just saw my potential and invited me to his school. I assume he did the same with Ruby, Deku said. As for me and Evelyn, it's a couple of long stories, but suffice to say, he helped us when we were in a bad spot, Jack said. Not for free though. The grey-haired taint hole has his own agendas which he rarely shares with anyone, and he never, ever does something without a reason, or out of the goodness of his heart, Evelyn said. That's so. I wonder what his reason to allow me to stay at the academy is, then David said. Well, enough speculation for one day. Evelyn, do you want to be the one to go to him tomorrow? Jack asked. It'll be my pleasure. I haven't had a verbal spar with the guy in a while, Evelyn said. He's pretty lax when it comes to reports, thank the gods. Can you imagine trying to hide things from him if we had to make weekly reports? Jack said. Right. That'd be veritably difficult, Penny said. Veritably indeed. Well, let's think about sleeping now, David said. Oh no, partner. You're getting something inside your stomach first, Jack said. But I'm not hungry, David said. Oh, you are. You may hide stomach growls from lesser people but not from us, Evelyn said. Concern it, David said. Jack, David and Evelyn then entered the kitchen, leaving Deku and Penny in the bedroom. After what David said, Deku thought about telling the others the truth about him. He thought about it for the rest of the night and came to the conclusion he wouldn't tell them. His situation needed to be kept a secret. Tuesday. Day 23. I'm going, then. Get me something at the cafeteria, Evelyn said. You know it. We'll wait for you back in the dorm, Deku said. Catch you later, Evelyn said, as she left for Ozpin's office. Shall we go, then David asked. Actually. I have something to do as well. I'm very sorry, but could you pick up lunch for me? Penny asked. Sure. Want anything in particular? Jack asked. Anything will suffice. Thanks, Jack, Penny said. Did something come up? Deku asked. Oh, nothing much. I just need to call my father. I will precede you at the dormitory, Penny said. Oh. Well, okay. See you later, Deku said. Penny then left for the dormitory. It should be good. I don't detect anyone in the required ear range. Opening remote connection. Security level high. Zero tracing. No recording, Penny said. Penny then proceeded to make a call. Penny. My dear, is that you? Penny's father asked. Hello, father. I hope I'm not disturbing you, Penny said. Oh no, my dear. I'm currently taking a break from the lab and was about to enjoy a special, Penny's father said. Father, you're still eating those sandwiches. Don't you remember what the doctor said? Penny asked. Bah. Poppycock. I'm a doctor too, Penny's father said. Yes, but you're a roboticist and software engineer, not a physician, Penny said. Details. And I doubt you suddenly decided to use our private line to check on my eating habits. You do that well enough on the normal line when you go for your checkups, Penny's father said. Father, I have a question, Penny said. What kind of question, dear? Penny's father asked. Father, is there a way for me to keep secrets? Penny asked. Did something happen, Penny? Is Ironwood giving you a hard time? Penny's father asked. No, it's about David. There's something about him that I have to keep secret from General Ironwood and his associates at all costs, Penny said. Your mysterious flying friend. Care to tell me more, my dear? Penny's father asked. Well. Something happened on Sunday, Penny said. Up in Ozpin's office. Evelyn had just told Ozpin about the voice in David's head. A disembodied voice which speaks to him. Fascinating, Ozpin said. You should have seen our faces when he told us. But fascinating isn't exactly the term I'd use. People aren't supposed to hear a voice other than their own in their head, Evelyn said. Then Mr. Deku should be completely fine, no, Ozpin said. Mua. You know what I mean. Have you ever heard of something like this before, Evelyn asked. I have, but most of the time it's tied to mental illness. But I guess you'd know more about that than me, Ozpin said. Yeah. So, other than that, Evelyn asked. There's one excellent exception I know of, Ozpin said. Only one, Evelyn asked. Only one, Ozpin said. And what was the explanation for it, Evelyn asked. The whole explanation is a long story. The cliff notes are. The body of this person housed two souls, Ozpin said. Well. That's spooky. What else can you tell me, Evelyn asked. There's a few differences, though. In case I know of, the, let's call it extraneous soul. The extraneous soul is not a random charade dispensing interventionist, but it's an always present distinct personality, Ozpin said. So it's always on, doesn't borrow the host soul's voice and acts like a real person, Evelyn said. Yes. Also, it didn't have the power to influence things like dreams or any actions. You say that this extraneous soul manipulated Mr. Deku's aura, Ozpin said. Saved a big chunk of mine and Izuku's bacon, too, Evelyn said. And finally, the two souls shared each other's memories, Ozpin said. That'll be hard to check considering his amnesia, Evelyn said. Yes. Still, there's nothing to worry about for now, considering that the voice helped you. Do keep an eye out for more episodes, though, and I'd appreciate if you reported to me as soon as possible, Ozpin said. Got it, boss man, Evelyn said. Also, if you could ask Mr. Deku for details about how exactly his aura was manipulated, that'd also help. Now tell me how Mr. Midoriya is doing, Ozpin asked. Apart from his homesickness, he's fine. Why did you ask, Evelyn asked. He's unlike anything I've seen before, and his power is dangerous, Ozpin said. I know that. He'll soon overtake Jack in destructive power, Evelyn said. No, I did not mean it in that way. While his power rivals Miss Ivory's, Mr. Midoriya's power could change the course of Remnant's future. For better or worse, Ozpin said. What do you mean by that? And why did you say power and not semblance, Evelyn asked. Because calling it a semblance doesn't fit. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you more. This is top secret, but please report to me if anything happens with Mr. Midoriya, Ozpin said. You got it, Evelyn said. Evelyn then left Ozpin's office. As she made her way back to the dormitory, she wondered what was so special about Deku. Meanwhile, in the mess hall. Phew. Mom's cooking is always the best, but there's something to be said about a Hunter Academy's quantities, Jack said. I doubt Penny is going to eat that much, though, David said. Good thing we got a microwave in the apartment. We'll just freeze what she doesn't eat, Jack said. I'm starting to understand why the headmaster made you leader, David said. Other than knowing me and Evelyn much more than you, Izuku or Penny, you mean, Jack asked. There's that. What I mean is that you're pretty mentally mature for our age, David said. Really, now? Maybe all people in Remnant are this mature and you just forgot, partner. I mean, Izuku is as mature as me, Jack said. But I don't have the years of experience you do, Deku said. David said. Ruby no Wise said. Yes, Ruby said. No Wise said. Yes, Ruby said. You just misspelled yes. How can you misspell the word yes, Wise asked. As leader of Team RWBY, I can misspell whatever I want. And I will also have a second serving of chocolate fudge, Ruby shouted. You're going to get a stomachache like last time, Wise shouted. Worth it, Ruby shouted. I'm fairly certain that's bollocks, Jack, David said. Maybe. But I'm not that mature, or I wouldn't have had a feud with Evelyn over cinnamon for close to 3 years. But I had to grow up a bit faster than most people, that is true. We both had to, Jack said. Does it have to do with your family, Deku asked. Yes. Something left us in a pretty bad position, and that's when Ozpin came around, Jack said. He came to you, David asked. It was the same thing in Evelyn's case. We both got approached by the headmaster, who offered to help with our situations in exchange for... Well, for us, Jack said. For you? You mean you work for him, Deku asked. We're not the only ones. But we're certainly the first ones I know of he asked to attend his academy as a mission. Anyway, Penny is waiting for her food and Evelyn is probably on her way back. Let's get to the dorm, Jack said. Right, Deku and David said. In Team JPDE's apartment. And that will keep part of your memory banks private. It'll be like it doesn't exist, Penny's father said. Thank you so much, Father, Penny said. Oh, it's a pleasure. And I must admit, your sudden desire for privacy is an incredibly interesting development, Penny's father said. I guess the more I interact with humans, the more like them I become, Penny said. Indeed. Promise you'll introduce me to your teammates in the future, Penny's father said. Absolutely. Although, Father, I'm surprised you're not more interested in David's semblance, Penny said. Oh, I am. But I can't exactly observe him without making this talk we've just had moot, can I, Penny's father said. True. I detect my teammates walking in the corridor. Thanks again, Father, Penny said. I'm always here when you need me, Penny's father said. Penny ended the call with her father and then Jack, Deku and David came in. Hey, Penny. We're back, David said. We have some food for you. How did the phone call go, Jack asked. Very well. Thanks for asking, Penny said. Soon Evelyn returned to the dormitory as well. Hey Evelyn. Your food is in the kitchen with Jack said, only to be cut off by Evelyn dragging her into the bathroom. Hey Carrots. Why did you drag me in here, Jack asked. It's about Izuku, Evelyn said. Carrots. I don't need to know about your wet dreams about him, Jack said. Jack, Evelyn said. Oh gods. You're serious, Jack asked. Yes. Ozpin asked about Izuku. And said he could change the world, Evelyn said. What? Tell me everything, Jack said. Evelyn then proceeded to tell Jack what Ozpin told her. So what do we do, Evelyn asked. Nothing right now. We have David to deal with, but once that's sorted out. Well, move on to Izuku, Jack said. Seriously? Even after what I told you, Evelyn asked. I know. This is way bigger than David's semblance, but we should let him tell us if he wants. We haven't told the others about our situation. But if something happens with him, we'll do something, Jack said. But I'm so curious. I want to have a look, Evelyn said. You will only use your semblance on him when I deem it necessary, Jack said. Wednesday. Day 24. Today's combat lessons were between Beacon students and transfer students only. Mr. Midoriya, if you will please step into the arena, Glinda said. Yes, Miss Goodwitch, Deku said. And as for your opponent? Miss Chloris, please, Glinda said. All right. Finally, some action, Miss Chloris said in excitement. A girl with light green hair in a purple hoodie then stepped onto the battlefield. Yo. How ya doing, Miss Chloris asked. I'm doing fine. How about you, Deku asked. Just dandy. And I finally get to fight someone from this school, too. Oh, wow, wait, where are my manners? Ma didn't raise no barbarian. The name's Reese. Reese Chloris. Nice to meet you, Miss Chloris said. I'm Izuku Midoriya, also go by Deku. It's a pleasure, Deku said. Same. but I hope it doesn't stay too much of a pleasure. I'm here to win this, just so you know, Reese said. Then I won't disappoint you, even if this is a sparring match, Deku said. Wrong. Not that. Well, not that only. Let me clear that up. And my throat. Ahem. My name is Reese Cloris from Haven, and I'm here to win the Vital Festival tournament. So be grateful. A champion is about to kick your ass in style, Reese said. Overconfident much, Deku said. Miss Cloris, there's no such thing as a Vital champion, Glinda said. What? Then dare call the guy who wins, Reese asked. Just the winner, Glinda said. Ah, that's boring, Reese said. Just take your positions, already, Glinda said. Huff, fine, Reese said. Begin, Glinda said. Reese was able to get a cheap shot off on Deku with her hoverboard at the start of the match, but in the end Deku's superior speed to Reese meant that he was the winner. Don't take too long in the shower, Broccoli Evelyn said. Yeah. I won't be long, Fluffy, Deku said. Deku then had a shower. As he exited the changing room, he saw a blonde-haired girl meditating on the floor. I'm waiting for my teammate, the girl said, standing up. I see, Deku said. You were wondering why I was sitting in the middle of an empty corridor, the girl said. More of why you were meditating on the hard floor, Deku said. I prefer to meditate on even ground, the girl said. I see, Deku said. Anyway, she's taking way too much. As always, the girl said. Reese is probably just feeling sore and salty about her lose to me, after all that talk, Deku asked. I thank you for that. Reese can get a bit ahead of herself sometimes. Now I should probably pull her out of the shower, the girl said. The girl then walked to the changing doom doors. Actually, Deku said. What is it, the girl asked. That's the door to the men's changing room. So unless you and Reese are actually guys, Deku said. Thanks, the girl said. You're welcome. I'm Izuku, by the way, Deku said. Aslan. Alton. If you'll excuse me, Aslan said as she went into the female changing room. Deku then went to join his team in the mess hall. Deku and Jun were currently dueling in the classroom arena. Jun went in for a strike with his sword, but Deku blocked the strike with a kick which sent Jun's sword flying into the ceiling. Jun's sword was now stuck in the ceiling. Welp. I guess you win this one, Jun said. Look at his sword. Sorry, Jun, Deku said. It's okay. I should have had a better grip of it. Guess I'll have to call Pyrrha to get it down, Jun said. You don't need to call Pyrrha. I can get it down, Deku said. You gonna jump up and get it, Jun asked. Nope. I'm gonna do this, Deku said. Do what, Jun asked. Deku then aimed his right arm at Jun's sword. He closed his eyes and focused. A black tendril then came out and went up to Jun's sword. The tendril then latched onto the sword and pulled it out of the ceiling, and slowly lowered it down. Well, what was that, Jun asked. Jun then looked to see Deku in pain. Izuku. Are you okay, Jun asked. Yeah. I'm fine. I'm not quite used to it yet and it takes a lot of concentration to use it, Deku said. What was that? That doesn't look like an enhancement type, Jun said. I know it doesn't. But it does actually relate to it, Deku said. How so, Jun asked. I can convert the energy in my body of superpower into a physical form. I call this technique Black Whip, Deku said. I see, but why haven't you tried to use it during combat class? Even if it's a strain, Jun asked. When it first activated Black Whip, I wasn't in full control. It went wild. Thankfully my friends were able to stop it. But that fear of losing control makes me want to learn how to use it alone, before I use it in fights, Deku said. I see. Have you told your team, Jun asked. No, Deku said. Why, John asked. Because I haven't. That's just it, Deku said. I see. Shall we get back to it, John asked. Let's, Deku said. But this time use Black Whip, John said. Sure, Deku hesitantly said. Little did the two of them know, that Evelyn had been watching and listening to them. She silently left the classroom to tell Jack what she saw. Thursday. Day 25. Lessons had just ended, and Deku was about to head for lunch when... There's my new favorite person in the world. Hi, Deku. Dio, yo, Reese said. Reese Chloris. How does being you in a sparring match make me your new favorite person, Deku asked. As humbling as that was, no. I'm talking about Arslan, Reese said. Your team leader. What about her, Deku asked. She was blushing. I've never seen her do that. I mean, I've seen her do that, but it's usually because of something I did, Reese said. All I did was prevent her from walking through the wrong door, Deku said. I know. You're a genius, Reese said. Or just a concerned citizen who thought Arslan had enough on her plate without having to add indecent behavior to it, a guy in a similar outfit to Arslan said. Oh, man, Bolin, can you believe if she had actually done it? The rumors, Reese said. I don't see what's so exciting about the thought of those kind of rumors circulating, Bolin said. Oh, I didn't expect you to rediscover your sense of humor just yet, little brother, Reese said. Don't call me that, Bolin said. What? You are the youngest member of the team, Reese said. By a few weeks, Bolin said. Or, don't be like that. I think the way you try and dress like Arslan is cute, Reese said. I was already wearing this when our team got put together, Bolin shouted. Sure, whatever you say, little brother. Well, lunch awaits. See you, Deku. If you ever come up with another plan, please let me know in advance, Reese said. Reese left for the mess hall. I suppose she's always like that, Deku said. Worse, Bolin said. If you need someone to talk to, Deku said. I appreciate the offer. My full name is Bolin Huri, by the way, Bolin said. Ijuku Midori, Deku said. In the dormitory corridor. I should have asked you for much more, Harold Roman said. My name is Howard, Howard said. Your name is Freeloader. You have any idea what kind of roundabout spin cycle I've had to make to find out what you wanted, Roman said. No. And considering that we agreed upon payment for it beforehand, I don't really care, Howard said. Such disrespect. Enough to make one conveniently forget precious details, Roman said. More crystals, Howard asked. More crystals, Roman said. Fine. I don't really need them, anyway, Howard said. There's a good boy, Harold. Now, as a show of faith, I'm going to give you a preview. So, after painstakingly souring through a lot of people and leads and cameras and databases, we managed to find. Wait for it. A direct witness of the crash, Roman said. You bring results, Roman, Howard said. HET, now. It's Mr. Torchwick to you. You think I let all my business partners call me by my first name, Roman said. Who knows? Anyway, I guess I'm going to get the specifics after payment, Howard asked. I'll give you a time and place where to meet an associate of mine. Don't be late, Roman said. Deku was currently walking through the dormitory halls when he ran into Pyrrha. Hey Pyrrha, Deku said. Hello. Ijuku, Pyrrha angrily said. Is something the matter, Deku asked. What, Pyrrha said. You seem angry. So, what's upsetting you, Deku asked. You, Pyrrha said. Me. What have I done to make you angry, Deku asked. Nothing. And that what makes me angry? How can you get close to him so fast, Pyrrha asked. Pyrrha. Mind explaining what you mean, because I don't follow, Deku said. Pyrrha sighed. Follow me, Pyrrha said. Pyrrha then led Deku to a secluded corner of the dormitory. "So, what's got you so worked up?" Deku asked. "Izuku. Are you a homosexual?" Pyrrha asked. "Huh. No," Deku said. "You didn't sound very sure," Pyrrha said. "Well, you did just ask me a very private question out of nowhere." "Why did you ask that?" Deku asked. "Because of Jun. You've been spending a lot of time with him recently, which in turn means he's got no time for me," Pyrrha said. "What does that?" "Oh, you like him?" Deku asked. "Yes. Which makes this more frustrating. You've gotten so close to him in such a short time." "How did you do it?" Pyrrha asked. "Honestly, I think it's because we come from similar places," Deku said. "What do you mean?" Pyrrha asked. "We both have little amount of train when compared to you and the others, so I think that's what sparked our friendship." "I know where he comes from," Deku said. "That doesn't help me at all. I'm called the Invincible Girl for a reason, you know. I can't just start over my training again," Pyrrha said. "Unless you are David," Deku said. Pyrrha laughed. "What am I going to do?" Pyrrha asked. "Tell him outright that you like him," Deku said. I can't do that." "What if he says no?" Pyrrha said. "I don't think he'll say no to such a beautiful girl," Deku said. "But he'll probably come up with some excuse that he's not good enough for me," Pyrrha said. "Then you should make it so you're not," Deku said. "What?" Pyrrha asked. "I believe at the end of the year Jun would be caught up with the rest of us. So just keep doing what you've been doing. Help him get to the starting line," Deku said. "I know. But 6 months of waiting. I don't know how much I can handle," Pyrrha said. "Then you better work hard with him," Deku said. "I will. Thanks Izuku, and sorry for earlier," Pyrrha said. "It's alright. Have a good evening," Pyrrha, Deku said. Friday. Day 26. "Very good, partner. You're finally getting the hang of this," Jack said. "Just in time for the weekend, too." "Got any idea for team activities this week?" David asked. "No forest combat training, that's for sure." "Let's push that back 1 week," Jack said. "That's probably for the best," Deku said. "Or 2," David said. 2. "No can do, D-man. You'll need that Sunday to recover," Young said. "Recover? Recover from what?" Deku asked. "The party," Young said. "The party?" Jack asked. "Yup. See, I know a guy who recently reopened his activity after an incident. Said activity is a club. He's going to have a big reopening in 3 weeks. And students from Beacon are more than welcome," Young said. "A party in a club? With a DJ and everything?" David asked. "And booze? Which, as Hunter students, we're allowed to drink," Young said. "Does that apply to me and Ruby?" Deku asked. "Huh? Why would that?" "Oh right. Yeah, you can drink till you drop, you're a Hunter student at the end of the day," Young said. "Sounds fun. I've never been to a club before," Jack said. "Well, why not?" David said. "Super. By the way, it will be a costume party," Young said. "You mean we have to cosplay?" Jack asked. "Nothing that drastic. Even just a domino mask or pair of fake glasses count. But if you want to for all out, by all means do," Young said. "Challenge accepted. I haven't tailored in a while." "As good a time as any to get back into it," Evelyn said. "Cripes, now you've gone and triggered her," Jack said. "Ah. I can already see a design taking shape in my mind," Evelyn said. "Cool. What kind of design do you have in mind?" Deku asked. "Now, that's a secret," Evelyn said. "I should have known," Deku said. "Tease," David said. "That's the spirit. Can't wait to see it," Young said. "Although, Evelyn, I don't think you have enough spare cloth to make a wild outfit right now," Penny said. Then we got our Sunday activity all planned out for us, don't we, Evelyn said. Shopping it is, then David said. Deku entered the gum to Arslan, beating the shit out of a punching bag. She then punched it so hard that it broke the chain, and it went into a pile of 9 punching bags, making it a pile of 10. Hey, leave some punching bags for the rest of us, Deku said. Huh. Oh, hello Izuku, Arslan said. Hey. So what's got you so worked up, Deku asked. Reese, Arslan said. Ah. I see. She told me about your blushing, Deku said. Of course, she did. That girl is always causing me trouble, Arslan said. Tell me about it. I have a very pesky bunny to deal with, Deku said. I see we are in the same boat, Arslan said. You wanna have a talk about it, Deku asked. Yeah. I think that'll do better than just destroying gym equipment. I should clean this up, Arslan said. I'll help you with that, Deku said. Deku and Arslan then cleaned up and then had a long chat about the jokers in their teams. And then she goes and hugs me from behind, in the middle of class, which sets of Jack. And that's how I got my first detention, Deku said. Arslan laughed. You must have gone redder than that cape, girl's cape, Arslan said. I did, Deku admitted. I'm glad Reese has never do that with any of us. Though it isn't her style, Arslan said. It's not Evelyn's either. She just does it because she finds my reactions cute, Deku said. Arslan laughed again. Thanks. I really needed that, Arslan said. You're welcome. If you need someone to talk to. I'm just a call away, Deku said, holding out his scroll. So am I, Arslan said, as she pulled out her scroll. The two then exchanged scroll numbers and went their separate ways. Saturday. Day 27. Deku's scroll began to ring. He looked at the caller to see it was Ruby. Hey, Izuku. Good morning, Ruby said. Morning, Ruby, Deku said. Are you free today? I've got something planned, Ruby said. Yeah, I'm free. What would we be doing, Deku asked. I'll tell you in the mess hall. I kinda missed breakfast. And dinner, Ruby said. Okay, Ruby, Deku said, laughing a bit. Are you laughing at me, Ruby asked. Sort of. I mean, how do you miss dinner and breakfast, Deku asked. Book. No more talking now. Me hungry, Ruby said, as she then hung up. Deku then made his way to the mess hall. As he entered, he looked for Ruby. He saw her stuffing her face. Hey Ruby, Deku said. Hey, you, Ruby said, her mouth full of food. I see you are already solving your hunger problem, Deku said. Yeah. Stupid book, being so good I forget to eat and then pass out till morning, Ruby said. Sounds like something a kid would do, but with video games, Deku said. I'm not a kid, Ruby said. Of course, you aren't, you're 15, Deku said. Not like that. You were thinking I act like a kid, Ruby said. No, I wasn't, Deku said. Liar, Ruby said. Guess everyone treats you like one, Deku said. Not all the time, but yeah. Young is always treating me like a kid. Even though I'm team leader, Ruby said. Well, you are her little sister, Deku said. Hey, you're supposed to be on my side. You're only a few months older than me, Ruby said. Okay. Moving on. What book were you reading, Deku asked. It's called War of Kings. And I can't believe the ending, what a letdown. And I stayed up to finish it, Ruby said. What was wrong with it, Deku asked. There was no heroic moment, Ruby said. So you didn't like how the book ended, Deku said. No, I mean, why didn't he use the ancient armor and fight the other guy one-on-one, Ruby asked. I haven't read the book, but it seems like that was the right call, Deku said. What? But he could have kept the other out of danger if he did, Ruby said. That's kind of stupid, Deku said. Excuse me, Ruby asked. Why would fighting alone be better? You said there were others, so why not have them help? They're a team, and a team, Deku said. That's not the point. He was their leader. If he had a way to make his teammates, I mean, the people following him take risks, he had to take it, Ruby said. Did he even know what the armor did, Deku asked. Well, no. But that's what a leader does. He always puts everyone above himself, Ruby said. That's not a leader. That's just a hero from comic books and movies, Deku said. What, Ruby said. What you're describing is a guardian or some kind of protector. A leader leads, takes decisions and values all members of the team equally, including themselves. The way you're phrasing it makes it seem like a leader is somehow external to the team. Like their life is worthless just because of their role, Deku said. That's not what I meant. But a leader is supposed to be strong, Ruby said. Not all leaders need to be strong. A good leader is someone who uses all members of the team and make the right calls with the information they have. They don't even need to be on the battlefield. So in your mind, a leader needs to lead the charge into battle. But what happens if they die? The people that follow them wouldn't know what to do, Deku said. Ruby said. Ruby then turned into rose petals and sped out of the mess hall. Why did she run? Did I say something wrong, Deku asked. Nothing wrong, Izuku. But you both got emotional there, Jaun said. Jaun. Sorry you had to see that, Deku said. Ruby has this very particular view of how to be a huntress, and how to be a leader. She wants to be a hero, fight in place of as many people as possible in as many kind of battles as she can. That includes her teammates. She once told me the same thing she told you. About a leader putting his team above himself. And I don't really agree with it, either, Jaun said. I get what she means. I wish I could do the same, but I can't. I won't be able to fight in all battles on my own, but I'll be able to fight in them all with my team by my side. Every member of my team is important. Even David, Deku said. I know it. My team would kick my ass all the way to Vacuo if I even implied that my life was somehow less important than their own. And second, they are training to be hunters, and right now they are all stronger than me. Thinking that they will ever need me to play martyr for them is not only stupid, it's also disrespectful. They are my best friends, I would do anything from them and they would do the same for me. As a leader, I think my responsibility is to make it so that we never have to go too far for each other, Jaun said. I may act like a martyr, putting my life on the line, even if just to save one person. I don't think my life is worth less than the others. Nor does Jack. I guess I just phrased my answer wrong, Deku said. You kind of put her on the spot. But as I said, you both got emotional. You weren't the only one who said something to upset the other, right, Jaun asked. Yeah. But I still feel bad for making her cry, Deku said. I know. It's like kicking a puppy, Jaun said. I should follow the petals, Deku said. You should, Jaun said. Deku then followed the trail of petals through Beacon and down to the Emerald Forest Cliff where the launch pads are located. As Deku arrives, he sees a black and red figure, hugging her knees and staring down at the forest below. Ruby. I'm sorry, Deku said. I'm trying, Ruby said. What, Deku said. I'm trying to be a good leader. And I know that I won't always be able to protect me teammates. But is it so wrong to want to try, Ruby asked. Ruby, I never wanted to imply that you're a bad leader for wanting to protect your teammates. I want to protect mine too. And I know you didn't mean it when you said that a leader who has put his teammates in danger is a bad leader. I guess we just both got heated back there, Deku said. Yes. I'm sorry, Ruby said. There's not a formula for what makes the perfect leader. You care a lot about your team, I can see that plain as day. And that's good, Deku said. But I'm being too much of a kid about it, Ruby asked. No. You're just being too idealistic about it. Unfortunately, that's not how the world works, Deku said. Hey. You sound a bit like Weiss, you know, Ruby said. I guess I do. Or you just think that because she's on your team, Deku said. Maybe so. And maybe a team leader acts differently depending on what the team is like. No. I probably said some things that sounded like I was talking bad about your leader. I'm sorry, but that mentality works for me because when I go too far I know my teammates are there to pull me back, Ruby said. I see what you mean. I had to pull Jack and Evelyn back after a fight over a mistake in Jack's cooking. Your teammates cover your faults. And so do mine. So I'll leave criticism of your leadership up to them, Deku said. And I won't say bad things about other leaders either. Deal, Ruby asked. Deal, Deku said. I still don't like that finale, Ruby said. That's fine. Must be only an ending for mature leaders, Deku teased. Okay, that's it, Ruby shouted. Ruby then tackled Deku. Ah, okay. I'm. Ow, Deku said. NOM, Ruby said. Are you seriously saying NOM while? And stop biting me, Deku said. Stop calling me a kid, Ruby shouted. Then stop acting like one, Deku shouted. Further noms, Ruby shouted. Ah. Stop it, Deku shouted. Never. Ultimate noms, Ruby shouted. Then I shall reel it. NOM, Deku said. The two were now covered in dirt, scratches and bite marks. That wasn't very nice, Ruby said. You're the one who started biting me, Deku said. I have baby teeth, while you have adult teeth. I should be the one complaining, Ruby said. Oh, so now you're okay with being called a kid, Deku said. As leader, I have to make use of all strategic advantages, Ruby said. I'm not against hitting women. So that won't work, Deku said. But I'm a child, Ruby said. First you want to be grown up. Now you want to be a child. You're impossible, Deku said. But I'm cute. So it's okay, Ruby said. Shush, Deku said as he bonked Ruby on the head. Hey. Don't make me cry again, Ruby said. You bit me, Deku said. Oh, no, I think there's something in my eye, Ruby said. Don't make me hang you up by your cap in the Emerald Forest, Deku said. But then you'll have yarn on your ass, Ruby said. I think Weiss would support my decision, Deku said. She would, Ruby said. Now what was it that you had planned, Deku asked. Just a day in Vale, Ruby said. We should hit the showers, Deku said. Gimme a piggyback, Ruby said. No, Deku said. Please. With strawberries on top, Ruby asked. Fine. But don't blame me for what happens, Deku said. What, Ruby asked. Deku then used one for all and picked up Ruby and took her back to Beacon. But suffice to say, Ruby's stomach was not ready. Belch, Ruby said. End of chapter 9.